Hi, but it's Jeff here. I want to do another video on the topic of this is the artificial intelligent topic series, and what I want to do today is about how AI apps, kind of this whole onslaught or flood of AI apps that we've been seeing, is going to create a new role. And I've already talked about this in one of my previous videos in this series about, will it replace people or not, and the types of roles that we've seen in other uh, tools in the language industry, or actually, well, not even the language industry, in the food industry, of how the barcodes actually created other roles other than people at the cash registers, or created people that would be on roller skates to go find information and all that. It's created other types of roles. And what I wanted to talk about here is how the AI apps, all these apps, will create another type of role. And we've been seeing this the last couple of weeks. And what is it? It's the data cleanup sweatshop. Okay, now we've seen a lot of posts on this, or a few. And this is not new of data cleanup. We've seen this in the area of automatic translation, what's called known as machine translation, and specifically in the part of post editing. And and the cleanup, I mean, I've published on this intensively over the past 30 years. I've written the book chapter on it, the main book chapter on it, on post editing, in the book on translators and computers for translation and computers for translators handbook or something. I can't remember what I called it. It's been so long, 2003. But what we've seen in that area was that there were post editing, or basically cleanup of automatically generated tests by automatic translation, or manually manually corrected text of automatically generated text by automatic translation systems. There were kinds of different levels, and I think that I really believe that the parallel here is not with rule-based machine translation. It's not with really example-based machine translation, post-editing, or post-editing of either of those. It's not really with statistical, not quite statistical machine translation, and definitely not knowledge-based translation, post-editing. But it's more about neural machine translation, NMT, and post-editing of that. Because what we've seen in the past 5 to 6 years, since 2015, 2016, with all this neural machine translation, is that the results of that type of translation are more fluid. It sounds more fluent in the target translated language, but there are errors in it, and that's where the problems are. Is that the errors of all the named entities, the people, places, and things. That's the groups of words about those. That's where the main problems are. And and what's that caused is it sounds fluent. We sometimes call this fluidity or fluency in the target text. It sounds normal, right? But the problem is that the words are not always accurate. And so that's where the problems arise. And if you don't clean that up, and the way you need to clean that up is you got to make sure that all those terms are correct, right? Now, I see in the AI apps, we're seeing the same problems with the data accuracy. I've already mentioned this in the video on AI topics on trustworthiness and reliability of data, right? I've already talked about this topic of the inaccuracies of the text that's generated by different types of AI apps like ChatGPT or whatever. So this is known. And I think that we're going to see this. It's the same thing as we have seen with neural machine translation. It sounds fluent. It sounds good. It sounds normal. It doesn't sound like a robot created it, right? It just sounds like someone wrote it. But the actual content itself has errors in it. Less types of errors to kind of really errors that are just it's saying something that didn't, the person, it's the wrong person that you're talking about, right? Having a role or something. And I think that's what this is cleaning, is that In the whole automatic translation field, when we need post editors, we need this. But what happened, we've seen, especially I worked in crisis management, humanitarian aid kind of first response types of automatic translation, where you need to do cleanup of SMS messages of people stuck in elevators, like in the Haiti earthquake, right? And so there's a whole flood of thousands of messages an hour of people, just stuck in elevators and under rubble and collapsed buildings, and they had to do cleanup of the SMS messages. So, so what happened is that there will be the types of people that will, I mean, there are going to be a need to do the cleanup. And the thing with the cleanup, as we've seen with the previous renditions in automatic translation, and I just mentioned that there was the situation where the collapsed buildings and all this, the in Haiti and other types of humanitarian aid kind of contexts and stuff, where there were the SMS text message was a good example of this. What happened was the data, people weren't able to type very fast. They were just trying to help, save me, save me, save me, and whatever. And they were typing. They weren't using spell checkers and stuff. In fact, spell checkers don't exist for Haitian Creole, right? At least not publicly. So people were just writing whatever they could to get themselves saved, right, their lives. But then Microsoft and others had to pay projects to agencies to do cleanup of that, of translation agencies, of people that knew the language, to clean up the data so they could clean up, so they could use it to train the systems to do better, right? So we've already seen this exact thing. I mean, it's really close. It's a really close type of context. Now, it wasn't neural machine translation, and that's okay, because even if we had neural machine translation back then, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have been good enough for this. But the fact of having people doing the cleanup and creating a new role to have to do cleanup to get the system to work better. We're seeing this recycling today with this whole situation of AI apps. But it's different here because in MT it was kind of, we know we need to do this, but then we got stuck in how to do it. And we don't know how much it's going to cost and all that, and what's going to be the result. And it's always been a question. This has been a long round for a long time. But now that this whole chat stuff, right? Well, these are chat apps. These are not chat bots. These are chat, apps. They AI-based apps that we know it's going to generate stuff that could be dubious. So now we've got to think about funding the cleanup. And think about killer, because if we don't clean it up, it's going to have inaccuracies that will now, and it's gotten such a big buzz. It's if the companies or the people that are creating this don't clean it up, then it's going to create more. The error proneness is going to get worse and worse and become very astronomical. And it'll make it worse and worse and worse and worse. It'll just kind of. So what's happening is now we have these companies have to create data cleanup teams. Now, the problem is that they don't know how many people are going to use it, right? And they get bombarded, flooded with so many people using the app that's catching so much attention. Now they got to hire a lot more people than maybe planned, right? And that, who's going to do the cleanup? And we've always known the idea of hiring people in low-cost countries. This is not a new thing, folks. In my own company, we have the difference between higher cost countries and low cost countries. I mean, it's an existing term, right? Now the question is, who can be doing the cleanup, and really, what's the level of cleanup? It's really doing research. Well, someone's kind of do the research, but it's actually it's a little more work than just kind of identifying terms and saying this is a bad term. But it's really doing the research, kind of being able to look at things and say, No, this doesn't make sense because of some other social knowledge thing, which I've talked about in the social knowledge thing of this AI topics series, social knowledge and creativity. So it's using that knowledge, which is higher than, sorry about the ding, um, it's higher than it's a higher level thing than just identifying errors, obvious flagrant errors in the text and cleaning it. You might get some of those, but this sounds so fluent. You've got to really look at it and say this is this is inaccurate in the world knowledge of things. Okay, these are inaccurate statements. Maybe it's just changing a person's name, or it might be changing something. But that's going to be the thing. And see, the problem is if you hire inexpensive workforce to do this that don't know the topics that are being done. And here you're getting thrown with all kinds of topics right now. It depends if you're just doing cleaning up anything that's getting through, or if you're channeling it through and doing certain domains. And you got people that at least know the domains, these subject fields, subject matter experts, kind of, and have them work on stuff that they know. That's a lot better than if you're just throwing any text at people and having them clean it up. And it's going to create a new role, right? It's going to create a new type of role, which will have I don't want to call this an ethical issue. I'm really careful about the thing of ethics versus moral. Hiring people in low-cost countries, I will not say that that's an ethical problem. I will say that's a moral problem or moral issue, because it's not against the law. It's more of a thing. Is it more or less appropriate to hire people in a lower cost country than hiring people hire a higher cost country? That's a moral, and I think that's a great debate for a roundtable on this type of topic, and comparing MT post editing with all this, with AI post editing. We call it. They call it AI post editing, which I probably could call this thing. But I think that this is going to be really interesting. And I'm kind of glad to be alive at this point in time to be able to talk about it, having worked in this exact type of topic for 3 decades, but on machine translation, automatic translation, now seeing it with AI, and how it's going to be different, and how it's going to be similar, and how we can look at funding this and getting funding for it. The hard part's getting funding, right? And I love getting funding for things. And getting things that are difficult. Here it's helping, these companies find it, do it, but do it in a way that's not going to create so many other questions about whether or not it's moral or not, right? Some will say it's ethical. That's okay. I don't want to sit there and nitpick over and split hairs over words. I kind of want to be careful with those, but hey, not everybody's going to be as specific about the difference between these words. But I think this is going to be something really interesting that it will be a challenge, and a lot of institutions will have to deal with this, and they'll have to deal with, and then the customer data, and how you're going to treat that, and how you're going to clean it up, and who's going to clean it up, and will it be who in the institution that will do the cleanup, or will it be the providers that will be doing this and outsourcing that to others, or will it be the internal people of the companies that are using the apps to actually do their work? Will they have people to clean it up? This is going to get, and then who will be doing it? It will be the secretary or the personal assistant down the hallway, and all this. This is going to get really. This is going to cause all kinds of derivative questions about who can do cleanup and stuff. And now this gets into all the translators. Hey, not everybody can be a translator. You got to be a translator. You have a trained translator, be a translator. And that's like, well, who can clean up AI stuff? Well, anybody with social knowledge, right? This is going to be different, and I don't know where it's going exactly. It's just fun watching it and to be able to comment on it based on previous experience of doing similar types of things. So, thank you very much for listening, and have a great day.